Comparison is the thief of joy. This and other things are the topic of the video I'm about to channel for you here. I've got this background of green bile which might represent envy, but definitely I'm just going to talk quite briefly, that's the idea, about how comparing ourselves to others, short of some of the benefits which might be related to competition, actually can be quite destructive. And there's also a couple of platitudinous quotes that I'm going to throw at you. One of them is be yourself because everyone else is taken, and the other is when it comes to rejections and feeling like, oh, other people have this opportunity and I don't, or you know, I never get accepted for anything. Just this sentiment of what's meant for you won't pass you by. What's yours, you know, what's yours will come to you basically. And maybe that's a little bit of a kind of resigned attitude of leaving it to fate. But there's a healthy balance, I think, to be found in accepting defeat and rejection and not being bitter or resentful or comparing too much to others, because ultimately everybody who is making and creating is unique. We're not AI kind of robots who are just, you know, input, output. We all have a unique story and unique impulses, impetuses, a prism through which we are filtering whatever is coming through, and your way of doing it won't be the same as someone else's. And I find a lot of people and have a lot of conversations with people who are sort of like dismissing their own work because it might not be like the other stuff that is in exhibitions, or their music doesn't sound like stuff on the radio, or you know, they're not technical enough, they're not good enough, they're not emotional enough, they're not I don't even know, transgressive enough, not experimental enough, not accessible enough. And I do it to myself all the time as well. I'm like, I'm too experimental but not experimental enough, I'm too poppy but not poppy enough to actually be popular. And really it's like, you're you, I'm me, we're us, and you couldn't be any other way. So this is a sort of message to just empower that. And if you try to emulate or adopt the processes of other people, imitation is the highest form of flattery and all that, you just end up creating quite like, I don't know, derivative work. And art schools often promote this, like we look at monkey see, monkey do, like we look at what other artists are doing, we look at the lexicon and the language used and the ideology that surrounds a lot of making, and then we end up emulating. And this can be a great way to learn, but it's not what makes authentic and important work ultimately. I'm going to read a little paragraph from Rick Rubin's The Creative Act, A Way of Being, about non-competition. Art is about the maker, its aim to be an expression of who we are. This makes competition absurd. Every artist's playing field is specific to them. You are creating the work that best represents you. Another artist is making the work that best represents them. The two cannot be measured against one another. Art relates to the artist making it and the unique contribution they are bringing to the culture. Some may argue that competition inspires greatness. The challenge of exceeding what others have accomplished can act as an incentive to push our creative limits. In most cases, though, this energy of competition oscillates at a lower vibration, probably the vibration of greed or envy. Wanting to outperform another artist or make a work better than theirs rarely results in true greatness, nor is it a mindset that has a healthy impact on the rest of our lives. As Theodore Roosevelt pointed out, comparison is the thief of joy. Why would we want to create with the purpose of diminishing someone else? When another great work inspires us to elevate our own, however, the energy is different. Seeing the bar raised in our field can encourage us to reach even higher. This energy of rising to meet is different from that of conquering. And then he talks about the example of when Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys heard the Beatles' Rubber Soul, and he was just like, oh, whoa, mind blown. If I ever do anything in my life, I want to make an album that good. So it drove him to make Pet Sounds, basically. And then when he made Pet Sounds and God Only Knows, the song God Only Knows How to Be, apparently Paul McCartney heard that, and he proclaimed God Only Knows to be the best song ever written. And then the Beatles made Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And they said it wouldn't have happened without Pet Sounds. So that's an example of, you know, mutual love, being almost like inspired by like, wow, that is so good that I want to make something that good. It's different from the competition of like, poor me, that person's doing really well, that person has all these shows, that person's living their life. Use that as positive inspiration, like that person's doing that, okay, well, I can do that too. Not necessarily do that because it might not be meant for you. So this is another thing around what's meant for you won't pass you by, because sometimes we have aspirations or dreams that come from the culture and they're not authentic, they're not like our true purpose. So we think that because outer success tells us that this certain, you know, level of performance or accomplishment or external acclaim validates what we do. Therefore, that's if we don't have that kind of external outer success, we are not sort of living our best life or whatever. And actually, there's a deeper, I guess, I mean, there's a lot of people, I feel like, as a sort of experimental artist who's not super interested in like fame or acclaim or validation from anything external. I'm just so, I just feel so like lucky and buoyed by the fact that I get to make my work. Like, it's just amazing. It's just so cool and beautiful, and I love it. And I love the fact that I have space and the resources, or I made space and resources for me to do that. And that's the only important thing. All that matters is that it's coming out, and however it's received. I mean, it's nice for it to be recognised. It's nice to be given money. It's nice to be invited to do things. It's nice to have an audience. But it's not like the lack of those things doesn't and will not corrupt the process, which, like Rick Rubin says, you know, it's about the individual and their contribution to the culture. And it can be hard now because everything's so saturated, and there's people who seem to thrive and be doing loads and get all the opportunities, and maybe that's slightly the Pareto distribution, where 20% of people get all of the success and money, and then the 80% don't, or whatever. And maybe that's just the way of the world, but I think even trusting that, you know, if there's something that you want to put out or apply for and it doesn't get the recognition or feedback or success, external success or validation that you were seeking, maybe there's a bit of a sort of another lesson there, which is that you're learning how to come to terms with the fact that you do rely too much on external validation. So basically everything's a lesson. I am surrendering here to fate and destiny, whilst also acknowledging that there are things that I do to put my work in the places where it's going to be seen and invited. I'm going to get invitations for things, and that's been an ongoing journey. And if you know that you're doing all you can on your side, then you know you've got to make peace with the fact that you are unique. Others might be getting success. There's also this analogy of the spirit of the times versus the spirit of the depths, and this is something that's in Kate Tempest's book On Connection. It's a kind of attributed to Carl Jung, and the idea being that there's art that comes through the depths, and is obviously everything's affected by the time and the culture in which we are creating, but the spirit of the times will kind of, yeah, you'll see a lot of work that is successful at the moment because it kind of vibes with the spirit of the times, whereas the spirit of the depths is more enduring. So trust that if you're channeling and you're working from the depths, whether you're ticking boxes of what's currently cool and the language of what's currently acceptable or interesting, and there is a lot of it nowadays, then yeah, just trusting that we all have our place in the, I mean, we're all maybe like a grain in the stone or the wall that is the brick wall structure of culture, or you know, we all have our thread or our place in the tapestry. We all have had our dish on the table of the banquet feast that is human creativity. So just accepting that, just like everything in the animal kingdom, all of God's creatures, great and small, just like everything belongs, so do you, as you are, doing your thing, and your focus is to do the thing that you're supposed to, feel impelled, compelled, driven, called to do, get out of your own way. Put the blinkers on to a degree, don't get too swept up in the spirit of the times or, you know, others, and making things because of shoulds or ideas or beliefs that have been we've been conditioned into, but to sort of stay in lane, find the voice, do the thing, remove the self-sabotage, remove the blinkers that are stopping you actually doing the thing, and apply a different kind of blinkers, which is that focus on, you know, doing the life's work and having a rich, enjoyable life as well, hopefully. If you want help with any of that, you can find it from the Heart School YouTube channel, but also one-to-one coaching, and sometimes events are offered as well for groups, courses, that kind of thing. So check out the details and comment your experience of comparing to others below. Thank you.